All right, guys, we're live. So we got a bunch of stuff to talk about today. And first and foremost, this is going to be a members-only video, free to the public. So if you can slide your finger over the thumbs up button, that is much, much, much appreciated. I'm going to have a sale on monthly and weekly memberships today, and we'll get into that here momentarily. But first off, I want to take this time on air to publicly congratulate you on your biggest night on DK ever. I'm assuming at this point you don't mind that I won the drafters contest yesterday, and you'll take that $10 and not care about it because that is an excellent six-figure night, my man. I'm very, very happy for you.
Yeah, I've never, again, like you said, it's my biggest night. I've had a bunch of close ones, bunch of 50K nights, but first six-figure night. I didn't even check DraftKings until it was all over. Kind of pulled the Ryan, knew that I was in.
That's a great move for you.
Well, yeah, because we know if we're in a sweat, especially like in a sport like baseball. Like you just know. You don't know if you're first or fifth or whatever, but you know you're in a little bit of a sweat. And yeah, seeing that the lineup behind me had Cedric Mullins, Freddie Galvis was nerve-wracking, and Glasnow. Actually was messaging with that guy like late night last night because in another Discord I saw him, like sweating and tilting his lineup, and I was laughing about it. And little did I realize he was sweating it like going up against me. So I had a little kick about that after. But yeah, one of those things that's kind of surreal. Played heavy last night. I mean, much heavier than I normally play, and it obviously worked out to nice success. So yeah.
So you got done telling me the story before we even got rolling on here. Like this is like not how you should play because you're usually a 3-entry max guy. So I logged into your DK account so we could kind of show the lineup and stuff like that. And I was, I looked as I went to a contest and like you reserved more entries today than you almost ever.
For sure.
Yesterday, like you're usually a 3-entry max guy and you did like 15, 20 lineups yesterday.
Well, no, I made like 5 or 6. I just entered them in the same.
Okay.
Tests. So
gotcha.
Yeah, I still made like 6 lineups though, which is more than I usually do. Many of them though were variations of like all of that. My lineups had either Alonso or Goldschmidt. All of my lineups had either DeYoung or Lindor. So like I used a bunch of the same players. I used the same 3 pitchers, Glasnow, Montas, and Maeda throughout. So a lot of my lines were similar, which when it's a bad night, that really stings. But we talk about that a lot. Like we like to plant our flag.
So that's a great point because, I talked about like from a strategic sense this year, I'm trying to do a better job. Either it's a cash game night or it's a GPP night. So you hate when you get stuff right. And at the end of the day, you're like, oh, I got this lineup right, but I lost in these 3, so I won $4. I'm like, what the hell was the point of that when you crushed on something? So really find something you're into and push it hard.
Yeah, definitely.
And you told me early yesterday you were into Mets Cardinals.
Yeah, I did. I was like really into it. I stayed on it. So as I told you, I was kind of upset that the Dodgers game and the Rockies game got postponed. So I was like, man, like ownership might flock a little bit now to the Mets and Cardinals. Well, I didn't even think about it, but as you mentioned, that was probably my saving grace because you had 2 more games in there. Who the hell knows what happens? Chances are I probably get past. And also, I just have to say this out loud on there, the Nolan Arenado, what I told you, because we talk about this all the time, like how lucky you have to be, how the breaks really have to go your way. And this is an example of it. Something completely out of my control, changed the entire complexity of the slate. I liked Arenado a lot last night. The Mets didn't even have a third baseman to use except for VR. So Arenado fit. He was too cheap. I thought I liked the spot for him. In the 4th inning or 5th inning, I can't remember exactly. He's up 2 on, 2 out, 1-2 count. Lucchesi throws a nice breaking ball, and he swings and misses. Like immediately, though, he throws a fit that like it was a foul ball before the ump even said anything. And the ump's kind of like taken aback and says foul ball because like he didn't really know what else to do. The Mets announcers are pissed. Like they're like, what the hell? Like wasn't a foul ball. They like look at it on a replay. It's hard to tell. Well, 2 pitches later, he hits a 3-run homer. So, like, stuff like that, like, it's hard to put that into, like, exactly, like, how that affected it. But it definitely affected it.
Well, we've discussed this before. For all the bad losses you take when you play, daily fantasy sports, appreciate the good luck when it comes to fruition. Whether that's a big 6-digit night or if you only play for $5 a day and maybe you quadruple your money, and that's big by your standards, wherever it might be. You need things to break your way for big wins. It's just the way things are.
One thing we talk about a lot, and it makes me feel better about talking about it with you, because obviously, you're one of the first people I want to tell. It's like, obviously, yeah, you wish that you had won 100K, but you also don't play big. Like, so you don't have nights like I do where like your wife is pissed at you. And like, you know what I mean? It's like a grind and it's hard to sleep and stuff. So it
Yeah.
is very vindicating and validating to have nights like this, but it's not like all peaches and cream on the other days, you know?
No, I mean that's it's a great point to bring up. I mean, there's definitely people that I've talked to over the past 5, 6, 7 years, however long it's been, where their marriage has suffered because of their addiction to playing stuff like this. And it's one of the reasons we try to take a responsible line on stuff like this and to be careful, because it's not worth losing, you know, your relationship with your wife most of the time. It could be husband. I know there's a few ladies out there, but most of the time wife.
Any
Play stuff,
relationship.
right?
Yeah, we're
So
both big on that. That's, I think, why people are kind of drawn to us as we talk about the human side of it. As much as, the win was great, like, I wouldn't, it was greater having my, my partner next to me to celebrate it. You know what I mean?
for sure, and that's a great point. Like remember a guy, I can't even think of whose name it was, like messaged me like I'm pretending to take a dump
Yeah.
every night, 15 minutes before lock. I was just like, dude, like don't take this the wrong way, but is that any way? Like, is it worth it? Like, if you have to fake taking a dump for 15 minutes every night, like either tell your wife you're playing this or like don't play, because this is not going to end well in the long run. And I'm sure we've all, those of us who play this stuff a lot, we've had it affect,
Oh, yeah.
personal relationships, because it is addicting. Gambling is just as addicted as like crack cocaine and heroin and stuff like that. And I was actually over at a friend's house the other day, and they're like, why do people do scratch offs when they buy them? They just do them right there on the counter. And I was like, are you serious? They're fucking addicts, man. Like, you don't understand. Like, when I used to play blackjack, like real hard, like when I got into the casino, like I'm like shoving old ladies out of the way because I need to get to the table. I need my fix now.
Scratch offs are one of the only things like where in life, I mean, there's others too, where you can like just go somewhere and spend $10 and end up like tripling your money or winning 5 times your money. Like, I'm not addicted to scratch offs, but there have been times where I've loved them, and I know a bunch of people that, I mean, do exactly what you said. They don't even scratch the tickets off; they just scratch off the code at the bottom and scan it in.
Yeah, I've spent less than $10 in my life on scratch off, so that hasn't been one of my vices.
Same.
But as somebody who's got 30 other ones, like it's good to avoid one of them.
Yeah, for sure. But all this stuff is important to talk about because it's all part of it. It's part of it. It's the nature of the beast, right? Like, it's definitely days like this. Appreciate, like you mentioned, the bad beats and all that stuff, because you really have to appreciate when it breaks out your way.
I think the other point is too, like for you, you're a heavy GPP player no matter what, but specifically in the game of baseball, we push the contrarian method more than anything. Like in NBA, if you're playing contrarian every night, you're probably just going to throw your money away in the long run. But in baseball, it's a completely different sport. But you got to be willing to eat the bad night, bad couple days, bad week or two, and know that a night like tonight, like based on what your average buy-in is, covers you for months. But you know what? For a lot of those bad weeks and bad days, like not switch up how it is, how you play. There's a million nights over the last few years where you're like, I'm fading Coors, and I'm like, I don't know how you're doing that, man. It's me versus you as the pitching matchup, and it's going to blow up. And it is. And it turns out 14-10, but you don't change the way you play the next day. You're like, I don't like Coors again tonight. I'm going to fade it. I like the Padres, or I like the Dodgers, or whatever it might be. And willing to deal with the losses to know that when you win 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 times your buy-in.
Amen to all that. Couldn't have said
So,
it any better myself.
all right, guys, we rambled on long enough. Let's start talking about a couple different things. Again, this
I'm
is going to be...
definitely, and you know how I am too. Like, man, I'm just so excited to talk about this slate. Like, I'm excited to get back at it tonight. We got another banger.
Yeah, guys, that's a sexy-ass account balance, man. And I know you put all your entries already in for today, so it was looking even a little bit better before, but congratulations for you. In honor of the big win, guys, weekly memberships get a $10 discount if you buy in today, and then monthly memberships, you'll get $20 back as well. Buy them. We'll send you the money today. You get both sports when we cover these, and we are in the middle of your best sport, which is baseball, and we're about to enter my best sport, which is NBA playoffs. So it's a great time to buy a membership, monthly, weekly. Hell, if you want lifetime or yearly too, they are up there. But just, you know what I mean? Like, this is the more common memberships that we do have people buy into.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and before we get into just show you guys, this is also something you bring up. It's slate specific. Like, you did not have a big score last night by
No.
MLB standards, but it was big for the night because the night wasn't a monster night.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and that's everything slate dependent, right? Like, I knew that my lineup, I hadn't checked DK all night. I knew my lineup was in a good spot though. Like, didn't know, again, I told you first, fifth, whatever, but like there were no 2 home run nights last night. I saw the ownership at the beginning. Like, oh, I gotta thank you also. I didn't even mention this, but like Whit Merrifield wasn't even on my radar at all. But then you drafted him in drafters. And I was like, that was kind of early. So like it got me thinking about him a little bit. And I was like, damn, I want him in a lineup. And same with Laureano. And they both fit that lineup. I actually had the A's game on in the background when Laureano went yard, but I like wasn't paying attention and didn't realize until after like the ball went over the fence. And I was like, holy crap, it's gonna be a good night.
It's funny because the whole reason I drafted Mitt Merrifield was because second base was god awful yesterday on drafters. And so
Yes.
I'm like, I like Whit Merrifield. He's a good player. I didn't look at this as a crush spot. Savali is solid. But honestly, I just drafted him because I went through the second base and I'm like, oh my God, this is the weakest position. And Whit Merrifield, he's legitimately a fantasy stud.
Yeah, he's a stud. He was definitely the best second base option yesterday. He was big. Austin Nola's late double was big. Montes getting the win was big. And man, didn't even realize it, but now I'm thinking about it. Glass now getting hit in that last inning was massive. Massive.
Yeah. I didn't think about because your best lineup didn't have Glass now, guys. So once again, this website is Drafters. We draft with a bunch of our customers every day. I would love to have some of you guys come play with us. I said yesterday we announced the winner. It's easier for me to do when it's me. Like I said, I don't think you care about that in the slightest, but
No, I'm happy you won it.
yeah, it was fun. Like, we always have fun playing with these guys. Whether it's Huggy Bear who plays every day, Sakura plays with us most days, Papa Steve. But I'd love to get 5 or 10 or more of you guys that come and draft with these. Either just snake drafts, you play them all day long.
I talk about this awesome. A lot too. It really hits me to hone in on who I like. Like yesterday when I picked first, I for some stupid reason chose Machado over an Arenado, and I was like, man, I like Arenado so much more. So on DraftKings, I was thinking about that. And like I said to you, I was thinking about that Whit Merrifield. So like it played a part in my big night last night on DK for sure.
Oh, hell yeah, man. Once again, very, very happy for you. I have not checked the weather today. Obviously, it was a big issue yesterday. But again, it's crazy. Like, I didn't think about that instantly when you told me, but I was getting my coffee ready, and I'm like, man, like, who knows what happens last night if those games play out?
You got to assume that, like, I would assume that, I mean, the Dodgers were going to be popular, right? Like, I mean, I don't know, but I'm blessed that they got rained out. Like, seriously blessed.
You had that monster NBA night a couple years ago too, and we talked about like the Porzingis injury. Like, guys, I know my best night ever. A guy got a phantom fifth foul call. The only guy that had a chance to catch me. You know what I mean? Like, I was watching the game, and I can't even think of the guy's name from the Clippers. All I remember is James Harden put him in a spin cycle. And he picked up like a phantom fifth foul and never came back in the game. Like, that doesn't happen. That guy might catch me. Like, you got to appreciate the good luck when you get it.
Oh, yes.
All right. That all being said, as much as you like the St. Louis Bats last night, I'm going to go out on a limb and say you don't like them tonight.
No, I don't. I mean, for me, like, pitching on this slate, easy. It's the top 3 guys. I know Nola's got some weather concerns, but, man, the top 3 guys are just so far ahead of the pack in my eyes.
Yeah, guys, double check your weather throughout the day. Again, this is kind of what it looked like yesterday, and then a couple of those games got delayed early, which was, obviously fortunate for you, but just also fortunate for us that we didn't have to really deal with it.
On the flip side, like Milwaukee and Philly was like a solid orange all day and played no issues.
Yeah, they played through a lot of rain last night.
Oh,
obviously,
they did?
I watched a good portion of the game, man. It was a couple of times I was surprised they didn't call it.
Oh,
like,
I had
at least
no
like
idea.
delay it.
I had no idea. Okay.
All right, bear with me for a second, guys. I got my fireplace going. It's getting hot. All right. Sorry about that. Not the most professional thing, but it was super warm in here. And DeGrom, Bauer, Nola. Do you have a specific ranking of them?
I like all three of them. And if I'm making three lineups, I'm going to mix and match them. And you know how, like, when you have a good night, feeling good, you just see things clear. I like the three top pitchers tonight, and I'll make it work with those guys.
Okay. I have not looked over this slate too much.
My favorites would be Bauer and DeGrom. But, man, Nola's not quite as good as those guys, but maybe, in a really good spot as well. Like, I like him too. I do.
He has not been himself so far this year, but like you saw with your boy Maeda last night, like, he's good. He's going to turn it around eventually. The Brewers strike out a ton. I get it. I mean, I like the other two guys better, but at the end of the day, if Aaron Nola outscores Trevor Bauer or Jacob deGrom, I'm not flabbergasted by it.
No. But yeah, I agree. I think Bauer and DeGrom and then Bauer are probably the top two.
We got any cheap guys we can get into?
I think Pavetta is interesting at 7,900 because Detroit's just so god awful.
Yeah, Pavetta's always been like an interesting guy, right? Like, actually, he's been really good this year. I think he'll be very popular today, would be my guess.
Yeah, I kind of do too. Because he's seems like the cheap guy to spend down on. Agreed.
Well, and remember, like, we detailed a lot of pitchers yesterday throughout the day, and there was a whole bunch of guys like Kenta Maeda who had mostly been bad this year, except they had good starts against Detroit. And the reason for that is Detroit's terrible.
Agreed.
So I get Pavetta. Ryan Weathers doesn't seem like a big deal. He was, they're going to throw him out there again today. I don't hate him, but I think it would be difficult to get to him over Nick Pivetta against Detroit. But that also makes me think, like, man, like, he's going to go unowned today.
Yeah, agreed. I couldn't get there, but I agree.
I like him. I totally get not playing him. I'm always leery of guys who left games injured.
For sure. Same.
And then below Pivetta,
Gibson's been better than his $7,200 tag. Just, don't like the spot for him. Minnesota looks good, but he's been good this year besides that first start.
Well, he's been a better real life pitcher than DFS pitcher because he's not a big K guy. But you take away that first inning against Kansas City, he's been as good as anybody in baseball from a real life perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's crazy. Just because, like I said, he's been better than 7,200. He gets a full workload. It's not the worst matchup in the world. That said, it's not a good matchup either. But he'd probably be my favorite spend down option.
This is exactly what we're talking about with Nick Pivetta. Mike Minor's been mostly god-awful this year. He's got one big start. Oh, shocking. It came against Detroit.
Yeah, exactly.
That lineup's just god-awful. When you have Miguel Cabrera 19 years past his prime as your three-hitter, you got issues.
It's so bad. It's so bad.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's hard to get by. I'm going to assume DeGrom's going to be the most popular, though, right?
Yeah, I would assume so as well.
He is just amazing. I mean, this guy's making his case to start, not just the best pitcher in the game, but starting to really kind of get into the conversation as one of the better pitchers of all time if he has a couple more seasons like he's been trending the last few years.
People are saying that, like, his stretch of, like, the last couple of years is, like, maybe the best of any pitcher ever.
So he is utterly and truly impressive. And as much as you like the Cardinals last night,
there
is no liking offense against Jacob deGrom, and he's so matchup proof.
Yeah, maybe like a 2-game slate when the other pitcher's Bauer.
Yeah, the other pitchers are Bauer and Garrett Cole. Might be the only time you can get away from Jacob deGrom.
Yeah, this is not the slate to use any bats against him, that's for sure. And, man, I like the top pitchers a lot here. I haven't looked at offense too much, but, and a lot of slates this year, I like spending up on high-priced pitching and spending down on bats because there's always cheap bats to go to. That said, I feel like this year I've been more apt to spend up on big bats. You even see, like, last night, my top lineup was Maeda Montas. Tonight, I really like the top pitchers.
Yeah. I understand that. Interesting. I'm just going to peek in that last night. So, I mean, hypothetically, the top two guys of Bauer and deGrom put you at a salary cap about $35.25. And as much as, like, you hear me begging every day for them to raise Russell Westbrook's salary on DK. We need a few pay down options or less pay down options on baseball. So you're not able to play these guys all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Tonight, I think it's a breeze though.
I get that. All right, so let's start talking about offenses. Let's go to game one, which is my Brewers against the Philadelphia Phillies. Obviously, we're not going to be interested in a Brewers stack, even in the slightest. They have really, really cheap hitters. If you need like one guy to fill a lineup, like Jackie Bradley Jr. will be in the lineup today. He has upside at 2,600, but you're never going to go out of your way to play Milwaukee bats today. Now, the Philly side of things against Eric Lauer. Now, Eric Lauer was really good in his first start, believe it or not. I wouldn't pitch him. Definitely some Philly righties might be in play, i.e. like a McCutchen.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. In play, not must.
Yeah, he took the day off yesterday, homered the day before that. He's shown subtle signs of getting out of his slump. Obviously, he's not having a great year. Harper is day-to-day. Segura's on the IL. Realmuto's playing well right now, but he's really, really expensive, so he's not going to fit any kind of lineup that we have. So I'd say this mostly looks like an offensive ignore spot.
Yeah, Philly looks like a spot that I'd like to get to. Like if
price wasn't a factor.
If price wasn't a factor, and there weren't like 20 other good spots tonight.
Also, Eric Lauer with a Cardinal stack. So Cardinals are just your magic team. Is also one of your other best DK nights of all time when they took him yard like 6 times.
Yes. We talked about that a little bit yesterday. So definitely had some vibes of that yesterday going against a lefty, former Padre. Yeah, for sure. Noah's been awesome.
I mean, I guess he would also be another guy you could look at. I'm assuming he'll be a fraction of the ownership of Nick Pivetta as well. I'd rather play Nick Pivetta because Detroit is all types of terrible, but Pivetta is not impossible to get hit. So this would be an interesting GPP pivot.
Very, very interesting GPP pivot. Love that idea in GPPs a lot. Like, I really like it a lot. That's all I got to say about it. I really like it.
Any interest in offense from these games?
I think Atlanta's in play. They've been more solid than they've been a letdown, but I think people will be off them here. Joe Ross, we've seen good Joe Ross. We've seen not so good Joe Ross.
That is an odd-looking game log, isn't it? 3 dominant starts and just absolutely getting smoked like a fat chronic blunt in the other one.
Yeah, St. Louis really got them. I think that was a day slate. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, he was god-awful that day. I get Atlanta bats. Makes sense. Going to be difficult to get to them because, once again, they are extremely expensive, and if you're using expensive pitchers, it's not going to be able to play, so you're going to be able to afford them.
No, I mean, I'm a little bit worried that I'm not going to be able to get I know I'm not going to be able to roster any offense I want rostering these pitchers, but I need to have some options. I'm a little worried about that.
All right, so hypothetically, if you were to pull Bauer and go with a Nick Pivetta, for example, instead of 35-25 per offensive guy, you end up with about 3,900. And Pivetta owns a lot of the same. Not the same, close to this upside because it's against Detroit. We're watching guys regularly drop mid-20s on them. So it's totally plausible. Bauer gives you 28 and Pivetta gives you 23, and this salary cap might help.
Yeah, I got no arguments there.
So, I don't know. All right, moving over to the next game, Houston against New York. We got Greinke against Herman.
Big rain problem. Big rain potential here.
Okay. Something to keep your eyes postponed, not out of the question.
This is one the offenses are good, real good, but the pitchers are good. This is a classic stay away spot for me.
I'm with you again. Now, if you want to get to a Kyle Tucker at 3,100, we've mentioned him repeatedly lately. Again, very much like your boy Alex Kirilloff, who was once again very, very good last night. He's hitting to a lot of hard outs this year. He's also a big upside play. Don't read too much into the 180 batting average. It's been a rough season. It's early. He steals bases. He hits for power. At 3,100, I don't fear Domingo Herman. I respect him.
Agreed.
I could deal with a Tucker one-off if it helps you make your lineup.
Couldn't agree more. I like that call. And it is a lot like Kirilloff. He's hitting the ball hard all over the park. Just hitting it at people so far. And that will change. I like that call a lot. My favorite piece of this game.
That would pretty much do it for me about this one.
Same.
I was thinking about Gary Sanchez the other day and just how awful he is now.
He's so bad.
If it wasn't for that, like 26 home runs he hit in 50 games, he got called up. Would anybody even respect him in the slightest? I own him on like 2 of my 3 year-long fantasy teams, so clearly I'm still a sucker for it.
I think that I've said this a couple times recently. Like Higashioka looks like the better player all around.
Agreed. All right. Again, I assume Pivetta will be relatively popular today, making Detroit bets even less popular than they normally are. Probably deserve to be less popular. It's another one, though. You want to give me like a Robbie Grossman, who's got a little pop. I think he's got 4 or 5 stolen bases this year leading off to help you finish a lineup. Okay, fine. But Detroit sucks. Not really. Like, I get not playing Pivetta because he's going to be popular and you want to be different, but it's hard to get encouraged by anybody from Detroit.
Very much so. On the flip side, if I'm using like Bauer and DeGrom, a guy like Robbie Grossman looks good because he's leading off, like you mentioned, 3,200, and he's going against Chalky Pivetta. So he's not a great player, but like in that type of lineup, I like him as a one-off. It's a good call.
Jonathan Scope is, again, also having a bad year, but it's kind of the same thing. He bats in the middle of the lineup. He's cheap. And despite his numbers being god-awful this year, a 473 OPS is pathetic. We know he has power.
Uh-huh.
Former all-star, everything like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the real question for me in this game is the Boston stack.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Fulmer's been pretty good, I think.
And Fulmer's another guy. He used to be very good. A lot of injuries have slowed him down. He's been rock solid this year.
Yep.
He's not giving you 100 pitches so you get into the Detroit bullpen, but Boston is also pricey like they normally are. It's hard to get to JD against his old team. Bogarts is 5,300. We love Rafael Devers. He's 5,500. So I always like Boston, but I just can't imagine that I get up there today myself. Even if you went with a Pivetta, they're still going to be tough to get to their good players.
For sure, no doubt. I'm with you. I feel similarly.
And they're a team that their good players are who you want because their secondary players are pretty bad.
Agreed.
All right, Cubs against Bauer, no thank you. And then the Dodgers bats against Alizé, who's got pretty decent stuff, actually.
Yeah, he does. He's got nice strikeout stuff. He was really good last time out against Atlanta.
Yeah, he's pitched against Milwaukee a bunch this year already, so I've been watching him pretty closely. And he's got his numbers are not great for the season, but really, it's been more about like 3 bad innings than it has been getting hit routinely. And all these starts against Milwaukee, like he was relatively dominant for a good portion of the game and then just had like a bad inning, which is, a characteristic of young pitchers.
For sure. That said, the Dodgers are still in play in my eyes here.
Of course.
Because they're freaking Dodgers.
His bad inning could be the first one, and then you're into the Cubs bullpen.
Yeah, exactly.
If Beatty makes the lineup today, obviously he had a monster night. He's very affordable. AJ Pollock and Beatty combined for like 80 points on Sunday. I'm not saying that's going to happen again, but they're affordable.
Oh, forgot to even tell you because you said you didn't watch that game on Sunday. So Beatty and Pollock. This is so baseball in the first inning, and I'm sure you don't even know this because you didn't watch the game. Beatty's up, I think, with the bases loaded and 2 outs before Pollock's home run because he hit before Pollock. It's 0-0 at this point. It's a dribbler that just gets past Bettinger. Like it's just a weak ground ball that just gets past Bettinger, and whoever fields it, I can't even remember, fields it and flips to Bettinger, and they beat Beatty to the base, but Bettinger's foot is off the base by like 2 inches, and he's clearly off, but like it was just a mistake. He doesn't play first base. He was just off by 2 inches. Next, he gets an RBI single. Next pitch, Pollock at a grand slam.
I mean, Pollock's other home run against Milwaukee in that series came on when he should have been struck out. Like Freddie Peralta threw a beautiful pitch that was clearly in the zone, but being that we try to make an old person try to eyeball 95 miles an hour, he missed it, and then he hits a home run in the next pitch. So that is baseball.
Yep. So I don't know. The Dodgers don't have one-offs I like, but I could see getting them as a stack because they're really good.
Yeah, Muncy has He looks off, but he does own upside at 4,100. So as much as I'm not really encouraged by what I've seen from him, like, that can flip at any point. Day off might help. Couple days off, get his head right.
He's getting
And
cheap enough where you're like, damn, he's walking anyways. You're like 4,100 for Muncie. I'm with you.
so, yeah, depending on what the Dodgers do for a starting lineup today, they're going to have a couple. It's going to be hard to get the Seager in bets, but some of their secondary pieces and a good offense are always in play.
For sure.
All right, we got Minnesota taking on their old running mate, which was Kyle Gibson. I don't love Minnesota today because I really respect Gibson. Our boy Kirilloff with another monster night. He's the guy that he's wildly in play because he's showing huge upside. He's hitting the ball all over the place. He's hitting the ball for power. And most importantly, he's duly eligible and very, very cheap.
I talk about the lineup with DeGrom and Bauer. I mean, he fits.
Fits real nicely. And Kepler's another guy, too. He showed a little bit of signs last night. Stolen base, got another hit.
The double down against the right, he's coming. Like, I know he's got 0 now, but tomorrow we might look at this and see 2 or 3.
Yeah, you're probably not going to get the Buxton or Cruz today, even though we both love them. And we do respect Kyle Gibson, so they're not priorities. But the cheaper guys, those two specifically, are in play because, well, they're affordable and they're good.
Yep.
Minnesota is, who was Minnesota pitching tonight? Happ. Happ's actually been pretty good this year, too.
He's way too expensive to use in my mind.
Yeah, he does get a good matchup with Texas, but he doesn't strike out enough guys to want to use him. I'm just more or less like, I'm not really like dying to get to the Texas bats.
I think that's Solak and Garcia, like the two guys that hit lefties. I mean,
didn't Garcia go yard last night too?
He did late, so I like that.
Yeah, and he's very affordable. I'm not looking to stack against J Happ, but if you like high-priced pitching, which most of you are going to like high-priced pitching because the high-priced pitchers are phenomenal today, Garcia at 3,500 fits your build.
And I don't just want to use like all cheap one-offs because it's not gonna win. I mean, you could get really lucky like that, but kind of for left as a guy I like, he's expensive, but he's playing well right now.
And running aggressively too.
Yeah. So listen, the other guys are more optimal because they're cheaper, but he's in play if nothing else at 4,500.
Yeah, and his
homered last night too, and we know he's got big power against all hands.
Yep. Strikes out a lot, but hits the ball very, very far.
I think he's got. Well, before a couple of days ago, he had 90 at bats, 45 Ks this year.
Sounds pretty standard.
Yep.
All right. So in the Mets St. Louis game, which is obviously dear to your heart right now, we got DeGrom just making all St. Louis bets not even a thing today.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and the Mets aren't really a stack I like, but I mentioned Alonso yesterday. Man, he looks locked in. Real good game again. Conforto looks good.
What do you know about Johan?
I know I used Philly pieces against him last time, and he made me look foolish.
It was really good against Milwaukee, which doesn't normally take a lot. I'm with you. I'm probably not trying to load up on the Mets, but your boy Pete Alonso was great yesterday.
Talk about guys with upside.
Yeah, he's just a double dong waiting to happen. And then, like, Conforto is very, very affordable. Yeah. So depending on what they run out there today.
Another one, too, Kevin PR, who's hit 6 for them the past 2 games, home runs in back-to-back games, like at 2K.
There's no way in the world I could prioritize big money on Lindor today.
Well, I did yesterday because I stacked the Mets. It was a mistake. He looks so bad.
Yeah, I again, he's still going to have a nice career, but he's got an OPS down there with who are we making fun of? Jonathan Schoop.
Sure, he does. I was reading something yesterday, and both of them were right there. Willie Adames, Lindor, and Schoop. Willie Adames busted out last night anyways, so he's now out of that crew.
Did VR end up doing anything yesterday? No.
I think the guys you mentioned, Conforto, well, not guys, Conforto and Pete Alonso be my favorites. See, it's just that, like, Conforto is just as good as hitter as these guys that are more expensive than him on the Mets, if not a better hitter. So, oh yeah, PR was the other guy.
Yeah, so mostly Mets outfielders.
For sure.
All right, moving over to Cleveland against Kansas City. Mike Minor versus what appears to be a bullpen game for Cleveland.
Yeah, it's a good thing they got Logan Allen out of there. He was so bad.
Good on for you for jumping off of him and
Yes.
admitting that it wasn't your guy. Sometimes that's really hard to do when it comes to playing DFS.
Yeah, I don't know. I clearly got way too attached to him after spring training, which shows you, a lot of times spring training can be a mirage. I don't know too much about henches here, uh, but I think that Casey bats are in play.
And I don't think some Cleveland pieces are out of
No,
play. I wouldn't stack Cleveland all and out, but we talked
Franco.
about Franmil Reyes
Yeah,
yesterday, and when those games got rained out, and I had to go back to drafters to pick up a whole bunch of guys because I lost most of my lineup. I mean, Franmil Reyes was a big part, so he's on my good side right now for sure. And this guy owns huge upside. He's going to have a lot of Joey Gallo-like days, like on the 28th when he went 0 for 4 with 3 Ks. But he's got big boy power, like big, big, big power. And he's seen the ball decently right now. A couple of 3-hit games recently.
yeah, I'm all about it. He's definitely my favorite piece from Cleveland.
A
I think
new daddy.
I think you can look at the Luplos and Ahmed Rosarios also, and they're pretty affordable. I respect Miner though, so I'm not looking to stack against him either.
For sure. I'm not really looking to stack against him, but you can. Franmil Reyes is a one-off who I
Hell
can't
yeah,
imagine gets a lot of love tonight.
I agree.
Now let's go back to Kansas City. So we brought up Benintendi yesterday, and he wasn't amazing, but he did move up to the 2 hole. He did get a hit. He did take a walk. He did get us 7 points. He didn't run yesterday. He's very, very affordable, along with like say a Hunter Dozier,
He went
like
off last night.
yeah, Jorge Soler. Like
Yeah, I think
this looks like a stack you could do with top end bats or top
yeah,
end pitchers.
I agree. I was just about to say that. You took the words right out of my mouth.
Like hypothetically, Benintendi, you're probably going to want to get Hunter Dozier in at third then. Now you're up to 3,700. It would be great to get Whit Merrifield. You got to prioritize him though, so that's going to be difficult. Same thing said for Salvador Perez.
Yeah,
I'd love to get him in this lineup, but he's a high end priority or a high end detriment to your salary cap.
for sure. But guys like Benintendi, man, though, he looks real good specifically.
Yeah, and also Carlos Santana is now 7 DK points or more in like I don't know, like 11 to 12 or something like that.
Something to be said for a guy who just produces.
Yeah, and one of these days he will have a monster game.
For sure.
So I think the KC stack, specifically these cheaper guys, you throw in a cheaper catcher too, and you can get up to a Santana or a Whit Merrifield and then try to complement the guys elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes sense, right? Like, especially you want these high-priced pitchers. They fit. They're not bad. I mean, Kansas City's playing good baseball this year.
Yeah, I have no arguments at all. And honestly, as the slate goes on, these later games, I have more interest in the offense than the early games, I think.
All right. Well, we will recap when we get all done here. Here's another game with some potential offense. Tampa Bay against LA. You got Alex Cobb, who, well, let's face it, isn't great. Crooked numbers in every start this year. The best thing you can say about him is he's not giving up home runs. All that being said, this guy's had an up and down career, but it looks really down right now.
Tampa must be real cheap because I see them getting quite a bit of love.
They are really, really cheap. So I think right away, cash game build, you should expect Trevor Bauer, Jacob deGrom, Nick Pivetta, those guys to be popular and complemented with a lot of Tampa.
Yeah, I mean, Kiermaier's going to be in there, maybe leading off 2,300. Meadows 37. This lineup's like far from exciting, though. I'll say that.
Yeah, we respect Tampa Bay as a team overall,
Yes.
but they're not a great offensive team. Like Manuel Margot is not bad, but when he's your 3-hole hitter, you got issues.
Yeah, my favorite piece of Tampa is probably Brandon Lau, but he's like not cheap at 4,300, and he's not having a great year. So Tampa looks like one I'll probably stay away from.
So I think that's a great point. Like, I get why they'll be chalky, and in cash games, throw a few of them into your lineup. However, Tampa's offense rarely deserves to be chalky based on how they play.
Yeah, I'm not worried about them like absolutely going off here. And Cobb's not a gas can. Like I think Cobb on some slates would be in play here. Like you said, I respect Tampa a lot, so I never.
Although also, say like Willie Adames, you mentioned, started getting going last night. He's 2,600.
Yeah, I mean these guys are surely in play, and on this slate in particular, Tampa's much more in play than Cobb.
Well, and think about let's just go back to hypothetically talking about this build, and let's throw a Willie Adames and the Kevin Kiermaier in here, which means you can play some Tampa without stacking them. So you're not going over the top. You're not selling your soul for Tampa right here. Well, now all of a sudden, Salvador Perez, Whit Merrifield, Hunter Dozier, Benintendi, Soler. Like all of a sudden now, like you got your KC stack, which is lower owned. I'm assuming we haven't, it's still early in the day. You got a little Tampa in there, but now you also got Whit Merrifield and Salvador Perez. So you actually got the pieces you like.
Yeah, I like that for sure.
So it's an interesting way to look at it. I do think Tampa will automatically get a lot of love today.
So do I. But those guys that you mentioned, man, they hit them at the bottom of the order, and they happen to be the cheapest pieces. Like, I like that call.
Yeah, I know you're a big bottom of the order guy on popular teams.
Yeah, for sure.
And then what do we know about this young man going for Tampa tonight?
He looked pretty good in that start against Oakland. He gave up a home run to Chapman. I think the guy from the Angels that I like is he left in the middle of an at-bat last night.
Contusion on his left knee. Unlikely he plays today, would be my guess.
Which really hurts their offense. A guy like Upton, though. I'm sure he's cheap. Yeah. He's definitely on my short list today.
Okay, so he ran last night, which is encouraging. Justin Upton's a guy we usually ride when he's streaking, but we prefer him against lefties. And you want to know what? He may be a fraction of what people wanted him to be, and he's not even that guy anymore, but he still owns big upside every single day. There are not a lot of guys who are usually cheap like him that own his upside.
And he's not streaking well right now, but there's oftentimes in his career you'll see game logs like that with all zeros.
For sure. All right. Again, I'd love to roster Mike Trout. Always do. There's no way I can get to him today.
With no Rendon, man, it just makes it so much easier for them to pitch around Trout also.
Yeah, they have a lineup a lot like Boston's where it's super top heavy, but then the bottom half of the lineup is just god awful.
Man, how good is Ohtani though?
Yeah, homered again last night, huh?
Yeah, this is a game I think where some offense is in play.
So Cole Irvin's been respectable this year.
He's been really good his past 3 starts.
I'm probably not tossing out. It was Tampa Bay, Baltimore, Detroit, so take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah, I mean, Toronto, you mentioned it yesterday. Like, their offense is just freaking good. They got mashers up and down.
They would be borderline impossible to get to today. Bichette, 5,500. Vlad's expensive. Springer, 5,700. Like, how do you get here? How do you get to anything in this game?
I think the ownerships are going to dictate that, and I have no arguments for that. My favorite piece from the entire game, though, I think would be Laureano.
I like him, too. Also, specifically for the cheapness, you should see Piscotty in the lineup today at 3K. And he's a solid hitter still. He's not a great baseball player, but, went yard last night, 3K.
Like, this isn't what I want to do, but I also, like, in tournaments, if you wanted to, like, spend down and pitching and stack, like, this game, I could see that winning.
I can see that, too. I just don't like the pitching options enough to do it.
Same. I won't do it either, and I don't have enough faith in this game, but both offenses are going to come in lower owned than they should, and they're both really good because it's really hard to get to them. That's all it is.
I was starting to feel real.
I was going to say your point about Weathers, man. Pittsburgh looks god awful right now.
Oh, they are awful. I played Tyler Anderson last night. And,
oh man, I was going to message you last night, like what a call, because he looked good.
Yeah, I've always kind of liked him, probably more than I should. Had the no going for 5 or 6 innings before it got busted up, and he ultimately took the L. But he was solid last night. I didn't like Montez like you did, and
I think he finished with more than Montez.
I just didn't have anywhere else to go. Once those other games were rained out and Ohtani wasn't starting anymore, I had no SP2 I was encouraged by.
He was much better than Montez. I mean, he had like 18 in a loss. Montez had 14 in a win.
So, all that being said, what about San Diego bats versus Mitch Keller?
They absolutely destroyed Keller. You remember that day slate a couple weeks ago? Yeah. Like, destroyed him. They're probably going to be like those other teams that they're just really hard to get to.
All right. Well, we'll just take the Pittsburgh bats out of here because they're terrible and I like Weathers. Profar, Pham, very, very affordable. Tatis, very hard to get to. Machado, hard to get to. Cronenworth.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's just Machado or Tatis and Machado are really hard to get to.
Yeah, I mean, if you stay away from Grisham, Machado, and Tatis, like, You mentioned Austin Nola's late double last night. We know he's a good hitter.
Yeah, he's good. I was telling people like this yesterday that haven't been found for baseball that long. He's good, like good.
So, they went out and got him for a reason. Again, it's hard to get to Tatis and Machado and those boys, but Will Myers. But like the Profar, Pham, Cronenworth, like middle of the lineup type of guys, like affordable.
Yeah, Pham especially. I mean, if he hit fifth yesterday, I know it was against lefty, but if he's right back in that lineup, I mean, it's a good spot for San Diego. Nice to get some exposure. He's on my list for sure.
And Mitch Keller's got decent stuff, but he is really struggling to put it together at this level.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
I mean, I know like that day game against Detroit, like he had it going for a little bit, and even at the end against one of the worst teams in baseball, ended up giving up a couple runs.
Yeah, he was not very good. Kind of though, like that's what like I'm not going to be shocked at a performance like that from Pivetta tonight.
Yeah, I get that.
Now that said, I know Pavetta's far better than Keller at this point in their careers.
Yeah, I think Keller's upside is probably higher than Pavetta's, but he can't. Pavetta's now, moving into that role as more of a seasoned veteran where he's able to, you see it with Corbin Burns. If something doesn't go his way, like he focuses on his deep breathing, he relaxes, and that's sometimes what it takes from a pitcher. Like you got to be able to get out of your own head, throw away the last pitch, and just realize you can't change it, and that sometimes just comes with maturity.
Yeah, like Keller 2 years from now could be a legit number 2, or he could be out of baseball.
Yeah, got to get out of your own head. Stuff doesn't always, stuff helps, but, it takes a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. And then another game, I think, with definitely offenses in play.
Being said, no, I don't like it. I was going to say, Justin Dunn, I remember, was solid the other day against Houston, but I can't do it.
No, that said, I do like the Seattle offense more than the Baltimore offense.
George Lopez. It's been a little better his last couple starts. Definitely not scared of him, though.
No, I think Seattle probably goes like I think they remind me of Kansas City. Like not great offenses, but better than people think. They got some nice pieces. They're probably cheap.
They are cheap.
The real cheap guys are probably not guys you love, but they work, I mean, they remind me a little bit of Kansas City.
Damn, Haniger homered again last night. I went to bed before this.
Oh, God. This game was like 1-0 in the 8th, and it ended 5-3. I was like, will this game ever end?
I think I had Haniger on drafters last night, too.
Probably helped you.
Yep. There we go. Didn't technically need him, would have won by a point, but definitely preferred having him.
Yeah, for sure.
He's another guy. I imagine he'll be popular today. He's popular in most slates. They should raise his price, but it's still sub 4K. So, you got Dylan Moore. Again, not a great baseball player, but he does run. Dually eligible. Kyle Lewis is a guy I know you're a big fan of that, he's showing signs of really getting going. He's got to hit a bunch of games in a row. He's due for a big game. Trammell. They're all really affordable. Crawford, Ty France.
This is another one you could stack up with expensive pitching.
And my boy Tom Murphy.
Yeah.
Starting to get going. This guy can hit.
We both like Murphy a lot.
Yeah, I used him last night in my only DK lineup. I forgot all about that already. I was too busy worried about how well you did to care about the dollar I won.
Fair enough.
He's 2,900. Like the Seattle stack is another one that could work because you put in these high-priced pitchers. You got Murphy. Even if you went with France, leave Seager out of it as the only guy that's 4K or above.
You can definitely fit Seager also. Like if you use a couple of those real cheap guys we talked about earlier.
For sure. Whatever you want to do right here. Complement him with some of those other pieces. And that's what we talk about with playing contrarian in baseball. The Rays are probably thought of by the public as being a significantly better team than Seattle. And they're a better team. But offensively, they're not leaps and bounds better than Seattle. You just need Seattle to be better today.
Yeah, they'll probably be twice as important as Seattle here or something like that.
Just based on what you said, I wouldn't be surprised if it's triple.
Yeah, so even better.
Late night hammer. Baltimore's bullpen on top of George Lopez, who I know his name is Jorge, but I like George better, is not good. So it's a point that you like to make. People always try to profile against the starting pitcher without forgetting you might have 4 or 5 innings against the bullpen here.
Yeah, hopefully you do. So yeah, it's a point I like to talk about all the time.
So I think Tampa Bay cash games makes a lot of sense. We're kind of looking at the Royals in Seattle. And then we kind of skipped over Baltimore, but they are, affordable, and Mullins and
Man,
Hayes, DJ,
Mullins having a great year, leading the league in hits.
batting leadoff, batting 333, hitting for power. Man, if you want to line up offense in this game, you can play for a 12 to 10 game here.
Yeah, definitely. Saw it start to break out a little bit towards the end last night. So not going to be surprised at all if tonight it really goes off.
Yeah, for sure. I know that's a point you always look at as far as, especially like Monday games, right? Like first game of the series, guys getting their legs under them after traveling and everything like that. Rock and roll.
Yes, sir.
So, all right, guys. I think that pretty much covers what we wanted to talk about for baseball today. We will do a drafters draft later today. So if you want to play with us, promo code's DFS5, Pat. But whether you play with us or don't, use the link to the Facebook group below for the drafters. We post when we're going to draft in there. If you're not on Facebook, get a hold of me a different way if you want to start playing. This to me is still, we're not playing for huge money over here, but that way it's affordable for everybody. We typically do $10 buy-ins, and it's just fun.
It's the best. It's one of my favorite parts of every day. So I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yeah, I mean, it's a point that we bring up all the time. Like, one, late swap. They auto swap for you. Like, let's just say yesterday, like, a lady friend of mine came over, and I caught the rain delays, but if I hadn't, and if we'd gone out to dinner or something, like, they would have auto swapped guys in for me. Franmil Reyes would have been one of those guys. I took him either way, but like they would have auto swapped him in for me. Probably would have been the reason I won.
Yeah, which is always nice. And it's like, we talk about this a lot. It's fun. Like, I know that gets lost in translation a lot, especially for someone like me that's, playing heavier on DK a lot of times and, trying to win big money and stuff. Like, ultimately, I want to have fun, especially with something like this. And it's one of the more, I don't want to say relaxing because it's not completely relaxing, but it's one of the most fun parts of every day. And 100%.
And the last point I'll bring up for why we like drafters, you have your guys.
Yes.
Mitch Haniger homers last night, that's my guy. Nobody else has them. I'm not splitting them with half the field. That is your guy. If you love Mike Trout today, you have the ability to get him unless he's drafted before you. You guys know how snake drafts work. Same thing goes for Byron Buxton, Ronald Acuna, et cetera, et cetera. So I love that it's your guy and you're not split. You know exactly who you're rooting for.
One other thing that kind of falls into that, we've got a nice little drafters community now. We want it to grow, but it feels good drafting with the same set of people all the time. It's just cool.
Yeah, come play with us. Their customer service is great. They got football, baseball. I don't know squat about hockey, but I know it's up there.
You know me from other past things that we've done. I have a hard time hyping stuff up that I'm not into personally. I really like drafters a lot.
Amen to that one, guys. So we rambled for a while today, but that was kind of the point of this one. Again, congratulations to you. We are running those discounts on monthly and weekly memberships today. Got double sports going. We're in the middle, like I said, we're in the middle of your best thing. We're about to enter my best thing. So it's a great opportunity to come try to win some money. Get these members only videos every single day. Thank you for watching.
Thanks, guys.